A very good afternoon to everyone. Today we'll be studying about sociology as science. Well, sociology as science basically tells us that how we are going to interpret the social facts, the social analysis based on scientific methods, research methodologies. So now if I talk about sociology as science, this is unit 2 of paper 1. So basically I would be covering about the fact, the value, the objectivity, that happens to come during analysis of a data. What kind of data? Sociological data. Now we all have heard about fact. We all have heard about value. We all have heard about objectivity. But how are we going to define a fact? Any statement, any analysis, or any theory, how would you say, is it a factual theory, or is it based on certain facts, or it is derived from a certain fact? So basically, what is a fact? What can be said is a fact? Any statement or any data which is empirically verifiable or could be tested can be said is a fact. We can also say a fact has its own independent existence. So if I say that sociology is a science, then it should definitely have a factual analysis. It should not be based on subjective analysis only. What do I mean by saying subjective analysis? For a very simple reason, I say subjective analysis. Any analysis that is based on preconceived notion or it is subconsciously biased. Now, subconsciously biased or preconceived notion. For example, if you want to study a family whether this family is based on modern values or is based on traditional value system, what are we going to do? Or what could be the analysis based on? If we know that family, then we could be biased towards that family on our analysis. Now, how can we be biased? For example, a family, this family is my friend's family. So, I would have this preconceived notion or have this subconsciously set in my mind that my friend's family has been very good. The parents, the siblings have been very good and kind to me. So I would actually analyze that family or would do the analysis having this bias that my friend's family is good. So obviously if my friend is good, the family would definitely be good. The people have been talking well to me. So I won't be able to actually analyze the problems or interpret the prejudices that happens to be in that family because of the subjectivity, because of the notions and the subconscious biasness that I have because it is my friend's family. So that's a very simple example of fact. However, later it was said that any analysis cannot be absolutely objective. Now, what does this mean? By this I mean that we live in a certain society, we are governed by culture, we are governed by a certain value system, we are governed by a certain discipline, so it would be difficult for us to actually do analysis without taking this into consideration. The reason why we have so much of conflicts in the society, for example, communalism, riots, what is the reason for all this? just very simple reason, because we are governed by a certain value system, and therefore we consider a certain religion or a certain community to be right or a certain community to be wrong. So it is because of this reason, because we are living in a certain cultural setup, we are not able to take independent decisions. However, it is said that absolute objectivity is not possible also, and it cannot be achieved, which is true also, because all these three factors govern us. And it is also not required. Why? Because if we have to study Indian society, what we have to take into consideration is we need to know the value system of that society, we need to know the cultural system of that society, we need to know how the people of those society think. So certain amount of subjectivity is very important to do analysis, because different society have different way of thinking, different way of performing things. So to understand that, we need to have certain subjectivity as well. So it is required, though when we have or when we talk about facts, it should not be based on subjective analysis. Okay? And while we are reading sociology, we'll come to know that Durkheim has talked about the necessity of social fact. It is so important to have these facts in order to analyze. So this was about facts. Now we can head towards what is objectivity. What is objectivity? Objectivity, as the name itself suggests, and in the previous slide I told you that anything which is not subjective, free from biases, we can say it objective. So objectivity can be said as free from bias. It is basically a type where a scientific investigator is free from all the boundaries. What is boundary? Now here by boundary I mean free from value, and free from all value means that the investigator is quite detached. Then only the investigator could bring objectivity to his research. So we can say that objectivity is nothing but based on scientific analysis. His or her methods are based on evidences. So a scientific investigator is basically a person quite detached from the values. It is he or she is free from the biases, could actually read the data on the line of scientific analysis, and his or her methods are based on evidences. For example, Durkheim studied suicide based on certain facts. Now, he collected or he analyzed these facts, then he did some research now research as in what? Research based on evidences without attaching any value. Based on evidences, and then he came with a theory or a theory based on objectivity or a objective theory. So this is objectivity. In order to do an investigation or to study, you need to be free from bias, whereas facts are based on empirically verifiable data. Now you would have a big question that objectivity and fact nearly talk about the same thing. Yes, they do talk about somehow nearly same things, but we can't say that fact and objectivity are similar for a very simple reason, because when we say fact, we talk about data, and when we say objectivity, we are actually talking about the conclusion that is objective. Okay, so this is what objectivity is. By definition, we would understand it through example also. Now we can move towards value. Fact, value, objectivity, important and essential for scientific analysis. And since we are studying sociology as science, we need to take these three terms into significance. So what is value? Value are basically, the name itself speaks a lot, that values. It is none less than subjective disposition. What is subjective disposition? Subjective disposition are basically coming from our own experiences, beliefs, our experiences, our beliefs, and our surroundings. Now, a very good example for this can be women who go through dowry death or domestic violence. Now we consider women as weaker sex. Now when we consider women as weaker sex, we have been experiencing that a lot of dowry deaths and domestic violence have occurred in India. So what happens is, we tend to have experienced it somewhere or other. Our surroundings tell us that women is a weaker sex. And somewhere or other, some people, or even our judicial system, or our lawmakers, or even us or me, we have created a belief, or we tend to believe it's always men's fault. If you have watched the movie Thappad, I'm not saying that it is wrong somewhere, but somehow a kind of value system that has been built we tend to believe that it's always men's fault. However, if you have seen the movie Dawat-e-Ishq, you would see the different side of the story. Okay, so our value system comes from certain experiences, certain beliefs, and the surroundings in which we have been living. So this is an example which I told you, that women go through dowry deaths and domestic violence. So we tend to feel, or we tend to think, that it is always men's fault. Maybe it's 90% or 99% fault, but 1% are the bearers who might not have done any atrocities. So what we tend to say is that even the law puts the burden of proof on So this is what value means. I am not against any decision, I'm not against any law, but it's just to make you understand that sometimes we do have men sufferers as well. If I hold on to one more fact or one more theory, that is the feminist movements, a lot of my friends are feminists. So I hope so you have got a clear interpretation of what fact is. It is empirically verifiable, tested, has its own independent existence. So when you study fact, in order to study a fact, you need to be free from biasness. And when you are free from biasness, you are free from the subjective disposition, that is experience, belief, and your surroundings. You tend to make a conclusion that is objective. So if I have to say in one line, or if I have to give a summary of fact, value, objectivity, I would say a fact when read or interpreted from value free or free from value would give you a objective analysis or a theory. However, in order to study sociology, we need to have certain value system. It is very important. Complete objectivity, is not possible. Neither required. Because we are studying a society. So certain amount of values and subjectivity required. Now, in order to do a research or in order to prove or in order to do an analysis, how would we go about? What could be the means, ways or the methods that are required to do an analysis of a subject? Firstly, we need to have a subject now. When we have got the subject, we need to study the problems or the tensions. The tensions associated with the subject. Now, what could be the tension associated for the subject? For example, if we are studying an industrialized society, now an industrialized society comprises of many things, but if I focus on labor, so for my analysis, I take labor as subject, labor of industrialized society. Now, what could be the tensions associated to labor? Firstly, Durkheim talked about division of labor. Now, if I take the Marxist opinion or Marxist sociologist, they consider division of labor as exploitative. Why do they consider it exploitative? Now when you will do sociology, you will understand that Marx believed, or Marx came with the theory of haves and have not. So he believes that haves tend to exploit have-nots. So according to him, class is exploitative. He considers that have created theories to exploit have-nots for their personal benefits. However, if you look towards functionalists, they are of the opinion that division of labor is a part of system which tends to make cohesiveness. Now, what is cohesiveness? Division of labor is important to let the system work. So functionalists are of the opinion that it is very important to have these divisions so that the system is working effectively and we have cohesiveness in the system. But when we come to Marxist approach, they feel that it is exploitative in character, where have-nots are being exploited by haves. So this is how subject is interpreted, and we tend to understand the tensions. After that, we try to gather data. This is what data is. One approach says that it is important. It helps in maintaining cohesiveness. Other set of data says it is exploitative. Now it totally depends on us or the person performing the scientific investigation, how he interprets it. If he is a functionalist, then he tends to believe that it is important for the working of the system. Or if he is a Marxist, he would believe that it is exploitative. From here, role of value tends to rule. After the analysis of data, we try to develop a theory. Now this theory goes through the analysis, independent criticisms. What are those independent criticisms? If I tend to give this analysis to people for their criticisms or for their views, then I could formulate a theory by taking multiple opinions. Now, since we live in a society without opinions, building a theory would be lame. For some, division of labor might be good. For some, it might not be. So this is how analysis is happening and how a theory is developed. Now the big question is, why do we require objectivity, neutrality, in our investigation? Or how, or will it be possible Max Weber felt that value neutrality is a tough job. Now, why do we say this? He says this because we all are raised in a certain cultural setup. So he feels that value neutrality is a tough job because we all are raised in a certain cultural setup. So certain amount of biasness is there. He says that perception of right and wrong will always be governing the thoughts. He says that fact in itself cannot give any understanding, which is correct also. It is we who attach meaning to it. When we'll study further, we'll see that division of labor according to structural functionalist people or the sociologists tend to make system work, but division of labor has somewhere or other led to alienation as well. Alienation from society, alienation from our own talents. How? If we see a sales team or a sales manager, the person is very much interested in making its product sold. Irrespective of his expertise. So this is the understanding that we are attaching to division of labor. Hence we can say, or Max Weber has somewhere correctly said, that fact in itself cannot give any understanding. It is we who attach meaning to it. Max Weber said that objectivity is possible only if the investigator knows how to neutralize their values, and for this they require special training. So he hasn't said that objectivity is not possible. He said that objectivity is possible only if the investigator is specially trained. However, this was not comprehended or accepted by Malinowski and Edmund Leach. They objected it and they said that absolute objectivity is not possible. Individuals cannot detach themselves from values. So this is how interpretation of science happens, and we try to study a part of sociology where we try to study it as science, how we could study sociological fact as science. So I hope so this makes sense to you, and fact, value and objectivity is clear to you by definition. I have tried putting examples as well. So thank you so much. All the very best.